The only difference between people who can play guitar and those who cannot is this. The people who can play guitar do it. And you can too. You could even get pretty good at it. I wonder how many guitars are purchased every year only to be abandoned shortly thereafter. A guitar was meant to be played. A guitar wants to be played. And yet, how many guitars are there, lonely, sitting in closets, gathering dust, just wishing that you would pick it up and play it? Don't let your guitar feel lonely and abandoned, collecting dust in the closet. Think you don't have enough time to learn guitar? Think about all the things that you do each week that are unfulfilling in your life. How much time do you spend watching TV? It could be hours. You could be spending that time learning to play an instrument or improving your skills on that instrument and doing something that is far more fulfilling than catching up on the latest episodes on Netflix. How much time do you spend playing video games each week? Look, I get it. Video games are fun, but there's this other thing right here that's really fun. And in the long run, far more inspiring, far more really good for you, and cool. And I know you might say that you just need some time to chill out and relax. But believe me, playing guitar is 10 times more relaxing and chilling out than playing video games or watching TV. And it's 100 times more rewarding. Think you don't have enough money to learn guitar or take guitar lessons? Well, take a closer look at where your money is going. I bet you'll find several things that you're spending your money on that aren't actually particularly fulfilling. How much money do you spend on your cell phone bill? I mean, here in Canada, cell phone bills are crazy, but maybe you don't need that unlimited data plan so that you can check your sports games while you're supposed to be working at the office, right? Check out how many subscription services you have. Everything is a subscription now, right? I know this guy, he's got a socks subscription. I mean, what do you need a socks subscription for? How many socks could you possibly need? I know a lot of these subscription services are only about 10 bucks, 20 bucks a month, and you'd say, well, it's not that much. But count up how many you have, because there's a chance you've got quite a few. And that's adding up, taking away from money that you could be putting into doing something really fulfilling in your life. Though speaking of, do subscribe to this YouTube channel. Actually, that costs you nothing, but it will help you learn guitar. Stop upgrading all the things in your life. Do you really need a bigger TV? Do you really need a faster computer? Do you really need that new phone or that new car? Sure, other people may be quite impressed that you've got the latest phone and a cool car, but those thrills disappear pretty quick. And if you learn a musical instrument, you can do that for the rest of your life. That will provide you with joy and fulfillment until the day you die. And ultimately, it costs less. I mean, unless you really do get into buying a lot of guitars and pedals, which sometimes we do, honestly. When we buy new things, we get this quick rush of excitement, right? But it dies out really fast, and you know it does. But when we learn an instrument, we know that we can feel that fulfillment for the rest of our lives. Not only do we enjoy the challenge of getting good at something, but believe me, people are going to be far more impressed by the fact that you can play a musical instrument than by the fact that you have the latest phone. Music never gets old. If you make a real commitment to learning music, you will have that for the rest of your life. And you'll never stop learning. You'll constantly want and enjoy that next challenge and that next challenge. That's part of what's so exciting and fun about it. I've been playing guitar for a very long time. When I was about 8 years old, I got home from school one day and my mom said, well, you're going to guitar lesson. And I said, guitar lesson? I actually didn't even ask for it, but I am so grateful that my mom enrolled me and my brother in guitar lessons because all these years later, now it's actually my career. And have I got tired or bored of playing guitar? No, I have not. And I do it all day, every day here with my fantastic students in Vancouver, Canada. Think you're too old to learn guitar? A lot of adult students will come to me and say, well, I don't know if I can learn because I'm a certain age now. And, I'm afraid I'm going to learn too slow or that I'll just never be very good. And I can tell you, after all these years of teaching, it's just not the case. The only difference that I really see between adults and children learning guitar is this: children don't know when they sound bad. And that can be an advantage because they can practice for hours and hours and not be bothered by how not great it sounds, right? But as adults, we know what the song is supposed to sound like. We know exactly what it's supposed to sound like. And so when we're practicing or trying to learn a new skill with guitar, we can tell right away, that's not the song. That is not how it's supposed to sound. But really, are you going to let that stop you from learning guitar? Have a little humility. If anything, that's one of the great things that learning an instrument teaches us. It teaches us humility as well. And as adults, that's a very good thing to have. A lot of us might be very successful in our jobs or feel very confident in certain areas of life. And then as adults, we suddenly throw ourselves into learning a new instrument, and oh my God, suddenly was like, oh, I feel all this nervousness. I feel anxiety. I feel so worried I won't be able to do this. Or do I have a sense of rhythm? Do I have an ear? Am I tone deaf, as people say? And the reality is, music is for everyone. We can all learn guitar. Sure, some people learn faster than others, and sure, some people have a real aptitude for it. But from my perspective, from what I've seen, it doesn't have anything to do with age. Think you don't have an aptitude for music? If you can have just a little bit of humility and focus on having fun, you'll be able to push through those awkward beginner stages, right? I've got students from very young students to students who are well into their 70s, and they're all learning guitar at different levels, some of them really good now. And no matter what age you're at, music is such a healthy thing to have in your life. I have a lot of my older students tell me how grateful they are for having learned guitar because it adds just that something more exciting in their life that helps to keep them happy and healthy and challenged and interested. So, what's your excuse for not playing guitar more? Think you're working too much? Work less and play more. Many years ago, before I became a guitar teacher, I had said to a friend that I wanted to work less and play more guitar. And the person laughed at me. They said that that sounded lazy. I felt so embarrassed at the time, but in retrospect, I think I was right. Am I lazy if I love playing guitar so much that I will stay up till 3 a.m. practicing a certain skill or solo that I'm really enjoying? I don't think that's lazy. And all these years later, that person now works very long hours at a job that I don't think he even likes. Now, I'm playing guitar every day and teaching guitar every day, and I'm loving it. So, how much time do you spend at the office? Is there a chance maybe that you could go home at a more reasonable hour and give yourself an hour to play guitar or take lessons? Would your boss fire you? And maybe if you are working very long hours and you don't love your job, maybe it's time to go home just a little earlier and learn something that is very valuable to you and very fulfilling and something that you can do for the rest of your life. And if that's not the job that you currently have, maybe you can find another job that allows you more flexibility to add something like music into your life. I've never heard anyone say, I regret taking music lessons. It just doesn't happen. I have had many students over the years come to me who have told me some horror stories about guitar lessons when they were kids. Sometimes it was piano teachers because it was just boring and they didn't like classical piano and they felt that they were just forced to do something they didn't like. But all these years later, they still feel this desire to play music. And they have the guts to take that next step, to call a guitar teacher in their area and say, you know what? Something deep inside me still makes me feel like I want to play music. And maybe it wasn't piano, or maybe it just wasn't that teacher. Maybe now is the day, maybe now is the right time for you to learn guitar. Then, once you've got a guitar, you're going to need a good guitar teacher. Now, this may depend on where you live, but if you live in a big city, you're going to have probably lots of guitar teachers in town. And what I would recommend is make sure you do some research. Find out what kind of music the teacher is in, what kind of experience they have, what is their general vibe. You want a teacher who you get along with really well because you're going to be spending quite a bit of time together. So you need to be able to laugh together. You need to feel comfortable to make mistakes, right? If a teacher ever makes you feel silly for making a mistake, find another teacher. Don't waste your time and money. Your teacher should be someone who always encourages you to ask questions, and they should be teaching in a nice, comfortable space, right? Where you just feel like, that was a really fun hour. I just had fun for an hour playing guitar with my teacher. So that it inspires you to go to lessons and it inspires you to practice. You want a teacher who's going to be sensitive to the way that you like to learn. Some students really like to learn visually. They like music on a page, tablature or chords or whatever. And some students, they really don't like that. They like to just be able to hear it. A good teacher should be able to figure out what kind of learner you are within a couple of lessons. And a good teacher should be sensitive to the kinds of music that you want to play. Most good guitar teachers can play many different genres. But if they're forcing you to play some songs that you really don't like, then you're not going to be having fun and you're not going to be feeling inspired to practice those songs because that's going to be really important in order to improve your abilities to play. But again, the most important thing about a guitar teacher is, are you having fun? Is it comfortable? Is the teacher inspiring you to play this music, this instrument? And when you go home, do you feel like, I can't wait to try playing that new thing? Some people might not have teachers in their neighborhood or even in their city if you live in a small town or if you live in a country where there aren't a lot of guitar players, which does happen. Now, you can learn online. You could take guitar lessons over Zoom or other video conferencing, and it works. It's not as good as in person. One of the downsides is that there is a time lag, right? It's just like a split second. It's a tiny bit. But what that means is that you can't play songs together. You don't really notice that time lag when you're just speaking to each other, so it's perfectly fine. But one of the most fun things about guitar lessons is being able to just play a song together. And students learn a lot from just playing a song with their teacher because they're learning about keeping a tempo. They're hearing the rhythms as they play along with the teacher's rhythms. And they get to practice playing a song from beginning to end, which is really important. If you absolutely can't find a teacher, you can learn from videos online, just like a lot of the YouTube videos I have here. Now, I would say that some people can learn guitar just from watching videos online, but honestly, it's very few people, and there's problems with it. As great as it is to have all these free videos on YouTube to learn guitar, honestly, if you're at a beginner level, there are very few people who can learn guitar just from online videos, because there's a couple of problems with it. One is, you can't ask the teacher any questions. And you'd be amazed if you've never taken a guitar lesson in person before, you'd be amazed how many questions you actually do have when they come up. And the other big problem is that you won't have a teacher to be able to pinpoint any bad habits that you might be developing. And this happens a lot. I get so many students who come to me who have been learning online for a year or two or even more, And, they've learned a lot. It can be really impressive. But very often, they'll have some bad habits that's really preventing them from being able to either play fast or play smoothly, or they've just kind of been playing some things wrong without knowing it. But a good teacher will be able to pinpoint those things for you really quick and say, oh, just be careful, make sure you're doing alternate picking there, or whatever the instruction needs to be, right? And then you will actually learn way faster. And then later, you won't be limited by any bad habits that you may have developed. So you won't be stuck at any certain level. Each new challenge will get easier and easier, but still enjoyable to take on those challenges. The main thing is finding a guitar teacher that you have fun with, who you can laugh with, who you can talk about music that you love with, so that at the end of each week, you feel inspired to practice the music that you've been playing and watch less TV and play less video games and maybe spend less time at work and do something that is so much more fulfilling, and that is playing music instead. And the best advice I can give to anyone who wants to learn a musical instrument is don't put too much pressure on yourself. The primary focus is to have fun. Learning is great, and you will learn if you put the time in and you find a good teacher and you practice. But the focus should be having fun, because if you're not having fun, you're not going to be inspired to practice and you're not going to be inspired to go to guitar lessons. And in the long run, if you focus on having fun, you'll be playing music for the rest of your life. And you won't be able to wait for those weekends or evenings when you've got time to play guitar. So if you already have a guitar, you can get started right now. You can look up some guitar teachers in your neighborhood or check out some of the other videos on my channel. At my guitar studio here, we focus on having fun. That's the most important thing. And you know that from the second you come in, because the first person to greet you is not actually me, it's the dog, Ringo. Ringo will make you feel very comfortable, relaxed, ready to play. So if you already have a guitar, you can take the first steps to learning guitar or improving your guitar skills right now today by looking up a guitar teacher in your area, or checking out some of these other videos on my channel, or try one of the books that I've written. They're available on Amazon. We've got Guitar Strumming Like a Pro, which is good for beginners, and Guitar Soloing Like a Pro, which is good for high beginner intermediate players. And let me know in the comments, what's stopping you from playing guitar today?